Okay, so let's move on. At this point, we have got the player able to be damaged, or the player character able to be damaged, and he can die. But we need the ability to respawn him back into the world after that happens. Because right now, once he dies, the game gets kind of broken. So the way we're going to handle that is we need some overarching class. We need something that's going to persist, always be there no matter what level we're in, no matter whether the character has been destroyed or not. We need something that will always exist and be ready to respawn the player. And for that, we're going to reach over to the game mode. So let's open up the twin stick mode. And the first time you open it up, if you haven't added any graph or any sort of blueprinting inside this, you're just going to get the properties window. So make sure you click Open Full Blueprint Editor, and we'll drag this up to the top of the view. Now, to drive respawning, all we're going to do is create a custom event, which we will call Respawn Player. So super simple, right? And all this is going to do is spawn an actor from a class, like so, and we need to tell it what it's spawning. Well, in this case, it's pretty straightforward. It's going to spawn the hero character. And there you go. Now, we have to feed this a transform. Again, that is the location, rotation, and scale. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on Spawn Transform and promote that to a variable. And we're going to call this Spawn Transform. Actually, let's call it Player Spawn Transform. So that is going to be the location where we're going to spawn the transform. Now, this is one of those things that you just kind of have to know about Unreal. So I'm going to try to share it with you in a way that makes sense. There is an order in which all objects in your game are spawned into the world. And one of the first things that gets spawned at time of creation is going to be your game mode. Now, what that means is, if we want to know where the player was the moment he was spawned, so basically like as soon as the game begins, if we wanted to say, hey, where's the player? Let's record that transform so that we can reuse it later. The problem is, since the game mode was actually the first thing to spawn in, the player hasn't spawned yet. Basically, the game is still in the middle of building itself. So the player doesn't exist yet. We can't query his transform. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to have the player call up to the game mode and say, hey guys, this is where I was just spawned. And then we'll record it in that way. Basically, we'll push the data up from the hero character instead of trying to query it from the game mode, because in the order in which things get spawned, if we were to use, say, begin play to try to record where the player spawned into the world, it wouldn't work because the player doesn't exist yet. So we have this, right? We've got the ability to respawn the player when this gets called. This has no actual value in it yet. Right now it's just going to default to all zeros across the board. We'll deal with that in a moment. But as soon as this spawned, we have some work to do. We want to possess this new character. Now to do that, I'm going to right click out here in space. Actually, you can do this either way. This, if I drag a drag a wire out and type possess, you're not going to get anything. Sometimes this happens in Blueprint, so make a habit of occasionally switching off context sensitive. So I'm sure this is something that will change in the future. You'll be able to see possess much more easily, but let's go ahead and just choose possess, and that's going to work just fine because a character is in fact a pawn. Now we have to feed this a player controller, so I'm going to drag a wire backwards off of this and type get player controller. And let's turn context sensitive back on. There it is. Now this is a single player game, so we can always use player index 0. That's fine. Obviously, if this was a multiplayer game, you'd have to reconfigure things a little bit so that you were passing possession off to the right player. Okay, so we've got the ability to respawn and then possess. Now we need to set up some abilities inside the hero. So let's compile, let's save, let's jump back to the hero character blueprint. And the next thing we're going to do is set up that initial spawn point. So the moment the hero character is born into the world, which remember, he's going to spawn into the world after the game mode has been created. One of his first tasks up here at begin play should be to kind of send a phone call up to the game mode. He's gonna like pick up his iPhone, and over a single frame, he's gonna be like, oh, hey, game mode, yeah. So this is the point where I was born. So let's set that up. We're gonna drag a wire off, and let's do a reroute node just for cleanliness sake. And I'm gonna right click on this, and we're gonna call it, or add a little comment here. So send spawn transform up to the game mode. Perfect. Now, because I will probably need to talk to the game mode later, let's do this. I'm going to say get game mode. You can always do this. You can always query whatever game mode is active right now. We're going to cast this to the twin stick mode. So that'll be like the first thing we actually do along this chain. And then let's promote that to a variable so that we can talk to it later. And we'll call this the game mode. So now we have access to that, and we can call other functions on it later more easily, which is going to be useful when we go to respawn the player. For now, though, let's drag a wire off of this, and we'll say set player, and there it is, set player spawn transform. If you don't see that, go back over to your game mode and compile and save. All right, so we can connect that up. We just need to feed this some transform, and what we'll do is we'll say get world transform. Actually, let's say get actor transform. There we go, much better. Connect that up, and there we go. So all we're doing is we're saying the moment the character spawn into the world, he's gonna set up his weapon, he's gonna send his spawn transform up to the game mode, and then over here in the game mode, that means this variable is now populated, and it's ready for respawning. The last thing we need to do is over here inside the hero character, we need to add this respawn behavior right before we destroy out the actor. So let's give ourselves just a little bit of room here, and we will drag a wire off. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do it this way. Let's grab a reference to our game mode. So here's our game mode variable that we just created a moment ago. Let's drag that into the graph. Excuse me. And we'll say get. We'll drag a wire off this, and we're going to call respawn player. And plug that in like so. And there we go. So now we are respawning the player, and then we're destroying the actor. So basically the order in which this is going to happen is the player turns out to be dead, we're going to spawn a new copy and go ahead and possess that. So we're not even controlling this new dead version of the character, and then we'll destroy it. But that's going to happen so fast that the player should perceive it like an instantaneous swap. Okay, so let's test this out. So we're moving around, we can shoot lasers, and we're going to let him kill us. And boop, check it out, we respawn, we got a new one. Now this does have a flaw that we will address a little bit later. If we stay in this position, let him kill us, dun, 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 dun. Check it out. We can't spawn there because there's now something obstructing our path. But we'll deal with that a little bit later. For now though, that is going to wrap things up for this video. We now have the ability to respawn the character. So thanks for watching.